Hey guys, welcome back to Sleep Among Titans, where we drift through strange and quiet corners of the past, perfect for listening before you sleep. So today we're tackling one of the big ones, the original daily grind. We're going to find out, what did a so-called caveman actually do all day? It's a funny question because our brains immediately jump to a cartoon. We picture some guy with a club, a fur loincloth, and a very short to-do list. 1, wake up. 2, grunt. 3, hit something. But the real story, the boring story, is infinitely more fascinating. It's a story of quiet rhythm, of incredible knowledge, and of long stretches of doing, well, absolutely nothing at all. Over the next couple of hours, we're going to live one of those days. We'll feel the quiet satisfaction of turning a worthless stone into a deadly beautiful tool. We'll follow the silent hunt, which was less about chasing and more about listening. And we'll sit by the fire and wonder what they truly whispered about in the deep ancient dark. If you enjoy these long, quiet journeys, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It lets me know you're out there, and it ensures you won't miss the next story we unearth together. But for now, to understand their day, we have to start exactly where they did, in the cold and in the dark. So get comfortable, let your breathing slow. There is no alarm. There is only the feeling of cold air finding a way through the edge of the heavy hide that covers you. The air you breathe hangs in a soft white cloud, and the only sound in the entire world is the faint, final hiss of an ember in the central fire pit surrendering to ash. Outside the shelter's opening, the world is a deep bruised purple. It is not morning yet, but it is coming. The day has not begun, but its first most important task is already waiting. That first task waiting in the cold and the dark is the single most important job of the day, the week, the year. It's the one non-negotiable on that prehistoric to-do list. But before we get to it, let's zoom out. Just a little. We're used to thinking of the world with maps with satellite views, a little blue dot that tells us where we are on a spinning globe. You have to forget all of that. For the small family or clan huddled in this shelter, their entire world, their known universe, was probably the size of a modern city or a small national park. This was the home range, and it wasn't the lush green world of our own time. Picture a vast open sky much bigger and clearer than we're used to. Below it, huge cold grasslands stretched to the horizon. This was the Mammoth Steppe. It's not a forest, not quite a tundra. Think of Siberia but drier and filled with life. Clumps of hardy birch trees and stubby wind-blasted pines cling to the sides of river valleys, and out on that steppe in the pale morning light you might see them. A family of woolly mammoths moving like slow, hairy mountains in the distance. Or a woolly rhino grazing alone looking like a grumpy armoured tank someone left out in the cold. They aren't monsters from a movie. They were just the big neighbours, a living, breathing part of the landscape like the hills or the river. But here is the most important part. This wasn't an alien wilderness to them. They knew it. They knew it with an intimacy we can barely comprehend. They knew which ridge gave the best view of the migrating herds. They knew the one specific bend in the river where the best flint nodules would wash up after a flood. They knew the sound the wind made when it whistled through a particular gap in the rocks, a sound that meant a big storm was coming. This place wasn't a blank space on a map. It was a map of stories, of memories of survival. And if you enjoy having this map of the past filled in, a quick tap of the subscribe button makes you part of our little clan here. We'd be glad to have you. Now, at the very centre of this mental map, the one point that everything else revolved around was the anchor of their existence. The fire. It was the fire that allowed them to survive the cold of this world. And it was their knowledge of this world that allowed them to find the fuel for the fire, the food to cook on the fire, and even the special stones that, with impossible skill, they would soon shape beside its growing light. And so we arrive at that first, most vital task. It's funny, we have our own morning rituals, don't we? The grinding of coffee beans, the ping of a toaster, the scrolling through a phone to see what the world has been up to while we were gone. These are rituals of comfort, of habit. The ritual about to take place here in the cold and the dark is a ritual of pure survival. The stakes aren't a grumpy morning or a missed notification. The stakes are everything. The responsibility for the fire doesn't fall to just anyone. It's a sacred trust. Perhaps today it belongs to an old woman, her hands wrinkled and scarred from 1,000 such mornings. Or maybe it's a younger person, an adolescent for whom this duty is still a heavy, important weight. Let's imagine it's the latter. a boy, maybe 14 years old, who was tasked with banking the fire the night before, covering the precious embers with a thick blanket of ash to keep them breathing slowly through the long, cold night. He moves now, not with a sudden jolt, but with the slow, deliberate grace of someone who knows that wasted energy is wasted life. He pushes the heavy hides off his body and kneels by the circular stone pit in the centre of the floor. The cold of the ground seeps through his leather breeches instantly. The air is still thick with the smell of sleep smoke and cold earth. He is the only one truly awake. The fate of the next 24 hours rests in his hands. He doesn't just plunge his hands into the ash. That would be reckless. First, he listens. He leans his head down close to the grey powdery mound and holds his breath. Is there a warmth? A faint, almost imperceptible heat rising from the depths? Yes, it's there. The heart is still beating. He takes a tool, perhaps a flattened piece of shoulder blade from a reindeer, and gently like an archaeologist excavating a priceless relic, he begins to scrape away the top layer of ash. He works from the edges inward, his movements economical and precise. Grey dust rises in a soft, soundless cloud, and then he sees it. A tiny, deep red glow no bigger than his thumbnail, a single winking eye in the darkness, the last ember. Now the most delicate part begins. He unrolls a small leather pouch. Inside is his tinder bundle. This isn't just a handful of dry grass. This is a carefully curated collection of the very best fire-starting material the landscape has to offer. There's the powdery rust-coloured dust from a birch polyp or fungus known as chaga. There's the fluffy cotton-like seed head of a cattail. And there's shredded paper-thin bark from a birch tree full of flammable oils. He has spent days gathering and preparing this, keeping it dry because he knew this exact moment would come. He teases a small fluffy ball from the bundle and places it with surgical precision right beside the glowing ember, almost touching it. Then he takes his blowpipe, a hollowed-out bird bone, smooth and cool to the touch. He puts one end to his lips and aims the other at the base of the ember. His first breath is not a powerful gust. It is the softest, warmest, most gentle stream of air he can manage. It's a whisper of encouragement. He's not commanding the fire to live. He is inviting it. A tiny tendril of smoke, thin and white, rises from the tinder. It smells acrid and hopeful. He breathes again, a little stronger this time. The red of the ember brightens, growing from a dull cherry to a vibrant orange. The smoke thickens. He can feel the focused warmth on his face. He doesn't look away. His entire world has shrunk to this single point of light. He breathes again, and again. And then a flicker. A tiny, almost invisible tongue of yellow flame leaps from the ember and licks the edge of the tinder bundle. It vanishes almost instantly, but it was there. His heart beats a little faster. He blows again steadily now, and this time the tinder catches. A small, weak flame wavers, dancing as if unsure of itself. It is the most beautiful thing in the world. Now, the race is on. He can't stop. He must feed the new life. He gently places the burning tinder into a larger nest of dry grass and twigs he prepared last night. He blows into this, nurturing the flame, helping it grow strong enough to bite into the wood. The flame strengthens its colour, deepening. It begins to crackle. That sound. That is the sound of victory. The first crackle is a signal. From the other shadowy bundles in the shelter there is a stirring, a cough, the rustle of a hide being shifted. The fire's voice has woken them up. The day has officially begun. The boy adds larger sticks, arranging them in a small cone. The light grows, pushing the oppressive shadows back from the centre of the room, making them retreat to the corners of the shelter. The light catches the condensation on the rock ceiling, making it glitter like a strange constellation. And the warmth, the glorious life-giving warmth, begins to spread out in a circle, a wave of comfort that you can feel on your skin. People begin to sit up, turning their faces towards the fire, soaking in its heat, like thirsty plants soak in the sun. This little ritual is the foundation of their humanity. This fire is more than heat. It's a shield against the predators that roam the night. It's the kitchen where tough roots and frozen meat will be made soft and safe to eat. It's the factory where new tools will be hardened and shaped. And later, it will be the television, the book, and the therapist as they gather around it to share stories and strengthen the bonds that keep them alive. This relationship with fire is something we have completely lost. For us, light and heat are a right utility delivered by a switch on the wall. For them, fire was a living member of the clan. It had to be born each morning, fed throughout the day, and put carefully to sleep each night. It required constant mindful attention. This constant low-level effort is a thread we'll see running through their entire day. It's a form of mindfulness we have to pay to get back. If you're enjoying this deep dive into a forgotten way of being, hitting the like button is like adding a log to our own small fire. It's a simple act that helps keep this space warm. Now that the heart of the home is beating strongly, the focus can shift. The fire must be fed, and so must the family. The light now illuminates the faces of the others, and in their eyes is the thought of the world outside. The quiet exodus from the shelter is about to begin a search for the food that the cold hard land will provide. With the fire reborn, the shelter slowly breathes into life. It is now a point of gravity, a place of warmth to return to. And that assurance gives a few of its members the confidence to leave. There is no grand announcement, no team meeting to assign tasks. It's an organic, unspoken process. An older woman, the matriarch of this small group, picks up a bag woven from nettle fibers. Her daughter and a few of the older children notice. They grab their own smaller bags and their digging sticks, simple fire-hardened poles sharpened to a point. They are ready. They step out of the shelter and into the morning. The light is thin and white, the air so clean it feels sharp in the lungs. They don't march off with a singular purpose. Instead, they begin to meander their path, dictated not by a trail, but by a deep internal map of knowledge. This is a skill we have almost entirely lost. If one of us were to walk through this exact same landscape, we would see a green and brown blur. We'd see grass, weeds, bushes, trees. We would feel lost in a sea of sameness. To this woman and these children, this landscape is not a blur. It is a library. It is a pantry. Every single plant has a name, a purpose, a story. Their eyes aren't just seeing, they are reading the land. They move towards the riverbank first, where the ground is soft and damp. The woman's eyes scan the ground, skipping over 100 plants to find the one she wants. She stops. The children stop with her watching. She points with her digging stick at a patch of what looks like unremarkable, tall, grassy reeds. To us it's just scenery. To her it's a treasure. These are cattails. She doesn't start digging wildly. She uses the stick to test the ground around the base of one plant, finding the optimal spot. Then, with practiced movements, she pushes the stick deep into the mud, leans her weight on it, and pries upwards. The earth groans and releases a long, thick brown root, a rhizome. It looks like nothing, just a muddy stick. But she knows that once it's washed and roasted over the fire, this root will be full of starch, of energy. It's the prehistoric equivalent of a potato. She places it gently in her bag. The children watch, and then begin to copy her, looking for their own plants, their own small successes. They move on their bags, slowly getting heavier. A child lets out a small yelp. He has brushed against a patch of stinging nettles. The woman goes over, but not to scold him. She finds another plant nearby, one with broad soothing leaves, a dockleaf, nature's antidote. She crushes a leaf in her hand and rubs it on the boy's skin, murmuring something soft and low. The lesson is twofold. The world has teeth, but it also has balms, and they often grow right next to each other. You just have to know where to look. This is their school. This quiet walk is their classroom. There are no grades, no tests. The only exam is survival. A child brings the woman a bright red berry. She looks at it, then looks at the child's hopeful face. She shakes her head, no, and points to a subtle difference in the leaf shape compared to an edible berry bush nearby. The child studies it, his brow furrowed in concentration, and throws the toxic berry away. The knowledge passes not through lectures, but through doing, through gentle correction, through a shared lived experience. It's easy for us to romanticize the hunters. The image of men chasing a giant mammoth is dramatic, exciting. It makes for a better movie scene. But the truth, the boring truth, is that the slow, patient, and reliable work of these gatherers was the absolute bedrock of their society. Hunting was high risk, high reward. A successful hunt meant a feast, but failure meant coming home with nothing but exhaustion. Gathering, on the other hand, was the steady daily deposit into the bank of calories. It was the quiet engine that kept the fire of the clan burning. Their bags are not yet full. They have roots, a few edible greens, and the nettle leaves which once boiled will lose their sting and become a nutritious food. One of the children has found something else, a cluster of empty snail shells, their spirals a perfect pale sculpture. He drops them into his bag. They are not food, but they are interesting. They are beautiful. They will be toys or perhaps decorations. Life even here is not just about survival. It is also about small wonders. The matriarch looks up at the sun, gauging its position in the vast sky. It is time to turn back. Their work provides the essential carbohydrate-rich base for the day's meals, but it doesn't provide the dense fat and protein needed to fuel a body through the brutal cold. That requires a different kind of knowledge, a different kind of patience, which is even now being practiced by the few men who took another longer path from the shelter this morning. Back at the cave, another kind of work is also underway. While this digging stick is a tool of pure function, a different kind of object is being born beside the fire, not from wood, but from stone. An object not just of use, but of deadly crystalline art. For now, the gatherers turn for home, their bags heavy, their minds full of the quiet lessons of the earth. Their slow, meandering path has ensured that everyone will eat tonight. Back in the shelter, the world has shrunk. The gatherers are out on the land reading their library of plants. The hunters are somewhere on the steppe engaged in their own silent ballet. Here by the fire is a different kind of quiet. It's a quiet of intense, focused creation. An older man sits on a worn hide, his back to the rock wall for support, his face illuminated by the steady pulse of the flames. He is past the age for the long hunt, and his eyes are no longer sharp enough to spot a distant root. His value to the clan now lies entirely in his hands and in the vast silent knowledge stored behind his eyes. He is the knapper, the one who makes things sharp. In front of him are the tools of his trade. They are deceptively simple. A few carefully selected hammerstones, hard round river cobbles of different sizes, a piece of leather to protect his leg, and his most prized possessions, a set of antler tines, their tips worn smooth from use. Today his goal is to turn a lump of rock into a perfect spear point. And what a rock it is. To us it's just a grey lumpy stone. To him it's a masterpiece of potential. It's a nodule of high-quality flint found at that special bend in the river. He has known about it for weeks, waiting for the right moment. He holds it in his hands, feeling its weight, turning it over and over. He's not just looking at its surface, he's trying to read its soul. He taps it gently, listening to the pitch of the sound, sensing the invisible fault lines and impurities hidden within. This isn't guesswork, it's a deep geological empathy. Satisfied, he places the leather pad on his thigh, rests the flint nodule upon it, and picks up his largest hammerstone. This is the first stage, the rough work. It looks violent, but it is anything but. Each strike is a calculated decision. He's not trying to smash the rock into submission. He's trying to persuade it. He strikes the edge of the flint at a precise angle. There's a sharp, glassy crack that echoes in the shelter, and a large shell-shaped flake falls away, landing on the hide below. He has made the first cut. He turns the stone, reads its new geometry, and strikes again. Crack. Another flake falls. He is peeling the stone like a strange fruit, removing the rough outer cortex and revealing the smooth, dark volcanic glass within. He works with a steady rhythm, his body rocking slightly with each blow. Crack. Crack. In a few minutes, the lumpy nodule is gone. In its place is a flattened, roughly triangular piece of flint. This is the preform, the block of marble from which the statue will emerge. Now the true artistry begins. He sets aside the hammerstone. The time for brute force is over. He picks up a thick tine from a reindeer antler. This next stage is called pressure flaking, and it is a kind of magic. He braces the flint preform against his leg and, using the antler tip, applies intense, focused pressure to one of the sharp edges. His whole body tenses for a moment, his breath held. Then, with a soft, sharp tink, a tiny razor-thin flake pops off the underside. This is his new rhythm. Press. Tink. Press. Tink. It is a sound so quiet it's almost lost beneath the crackle of the fire. His movements are small, incredibly precise. His eyes are narrowed in absolute concentration. The world of the shelter. The world outside it has all fallen away. There is only him, the stone, and the pressure he's applying. This is a conversation. The stone tells him where it is strong, where it is weak, and he listens, adjusting his angle, applying more or less pressure. He's in a state of pure flow, a meditative dance between mind and matter that has been passed down through 1,000 generations. Slowly, impossibly, the rough preform is transformed. With each tiny flake he removes, the tool becomes thinner, more symmetrical, more refined. He works along one edge, creating a delicate serrated pattern like the teeth of a saw. Then he does the same to the other side. Finally he works on the base, carefully creating the notches that will allow this point to be hafted onto a wooden spear shaft. After what might have been an hour, he stops. He holds the object up to the firelight. It's finished. It is no longer a rock. It is a weapon. It is a work of art. A leaf-shaped spear point perfectly balanced, its edges translucent and sharper than any steel blade. It is a thing of lethal geometric beauty. He runs his thumb gently over its surface, not the edge feeling the subtle ridges left by his work. Each ridge is a memory of a decision made, a problem solved. This small object is a miracle of physics and intuition, but a spear point alone cannot fill a stomach. It is a promise, a potential. It is useless without the wood, the sinew, and the steady hand of the hunter who will wield it. It is waiting for the men who are at this very moment tracking their prey across the cold, wide steppe. The tiny, sharp flakes that litter the ground around the knapper are not waste either. They will be gathered up and used by the women for the fine work of scraping hides or cutting cordage, their own patient work made possible by his. The shape of this point, a style unique to his people, is a story in itself. It's a tradition, a signature written in stone, a story of function and identity that might one day be scratched onto a rock wall, a symbol of who they are, a silent echo waiting for us in the deep. While the knapper sits in the warm, contained world of the shelter and the gatherers move through the intimate, detailed world of the riverbank, another group is engaged with the world on a completely different scale. These are the hunters. They left the shelter at the same time as the others, but their path led away from the river up onto the high open plains of the Mammoth Steppe. Out here the world is vast and empty. The sky is enormous, a pale, windswept dome. The ground is a rolling sea of dry, yellowed grass and low shrubs stretching to a horizon that seems impossibly far away. For them, this landscape is not a pantry of plants. It is a landscape of movement, of wind, of sight lines. It is a chessboard the size of a county, and they are looking for the other players. Let's be perfectly clear about what a prehistoric hunt actually involved. Our imagination, fed by movies, pictures a group of shouting, screaming men running headlong at a terrified beast. It's all action, adrenaline, and drama. The reality, the boring reality, was 99% walking, and looking, and waiting. Their daily step count would have broken any modern fitness tracker. It was a marathon of patience and endurance sport of the highest order. Two men, perhaps an uncle and his nephew, move across this landscape. They don't walk side by side chatting. They walk in a staggered line, their eyes constantly scanning their bodies, relaxed, but aware. They are not just looking for animals. They are reading 1,000 tiny signs. The uncle stops, pointing not at something, but at the ground. It's a set of tracks. To us, a few dents in the dirt. To him, it's a page of information. He can tell the species reindeer, the number of animals, the direction they were heading. He puts his fingers into the track. The soil is still dark and slightly damp. They passed by recently. The hunt has begun. They follow not at a run, but at a steady ground-eating pace. They are reading more than just footprints. The nephew points to a low, thorny bush. A few strands of coarse brown hair are snagged on its branches, a gift from the wind and the passing herd. A little further on, the uncle notes the droppings. He touches them, still warm. They are close. The wind is in their favour, blowing from the herd towards them, carrying their scent away. Everything depends on the wind. After another hour of walking, the uncle freezes, holding up a hand. The nephew sinks into a crouch behind him. Over the crest of the next ridge they can see them. A herd of 100 reindeer grazing peacefully, their antlers, like a forest of dead branches against the pale sky. The sight of them doesn't trigger a rush of adrenaline. It triggers a profound stillness. This is the moment where the Hollywood movie would cue the dramatic music. For them, it is the cue for absolute inaction. Charging in now would be idiotic. They would spook the entire herd, which would scatter in a panic across the plains, and the hunters would have wasted a day and a massive amount of energy for nothing. And in this world, wasted energy is a death sentence. So they retreat slowly, backing away from the ridge until they are out of sight. They find a shallow depression, a small gully shielded from the wind with a good view of the herd, and they wait. This is the long watch. The sun crawls across the sky. The wind whispers in the dry grass. The only movement from the hunters is the slow turn of their heads. Their breathing is deep and even. This isn't a tense, nail-biting wait. It is a deep, meditative state of observation. They are becoming part of the landscape, just another pair of rocks on the hillside. They are watching the herd, learning its rhythm. They see the calves staying close to their mothers, the dominant bull chasing away a younger rival. They are not just looking for an animal. They are looking for the right animal. They won't choose the strongest bull. He is too strong, too dangerous, and his loss would disrupt the herd. They won't choose a mother with her young. That is a bad investment in the future. Their eyes search for a specific individual, perhaps an older male past his prime walking a little stiffly, or a young one that has wandered a bit too far from the safety of the group. They are looking for the one the herd can most afford to lose. This is not cruelty. It is a sustainable ecological wisdom born from thousands of years of observation. Finally, after hours of stillness, the uncle gives a slow, single nod. He has chosen. A lone male grazing at the very edge of the herd. Now, and only now, does the plan begin to form. They communicate not with words, but with a series of subtle hand signals, a language of the hunt perfected over generations. They will separate using the terrain to circle around to approach from two different sides downwind. The wait is over. The approach begins. They crawl on their bellies through the grass, their movements slow, silent and fluid. Every muscle is controlled, every step is deliberate. The success of this final coordinated push depends on a lifetime of trust and shared experience, a bond forged in shared silence and shared meals back at the shelter. The animal they are approaching is more than just meat. It is a spirit, a powerful being, and they are asking it for the gift of its life. As the sun begins its own slow descent, casting their long, creeping shadows across the steppe, the hunters know their time is running out. The great clock of the sky is calling all living things, the hunter, the hunted, and the gatherer, back toward the inevitable promise of rest and the distant waiting warmth of the fire. Let's pause the action for a moment. The hunters are still out deep in their long watch. The master knapper has set aside his finished spear point, his hands resting. The gatherers have returned their bags of roots and greens deposited near the hearth, their short journey complete. The sun is now high in the sky, a bright white disk. This is the quiet hour, the midday lull. In our modern world, this is a moment that would fill us with a strange kind of anxiety, an empty slot in the calendar, a moment without a task, a screen or a distraction. We have become so addicted to being busy, to productivity, to optimizing every second that we have forgotten how to simply be. We would call this being bored. For the people in this shelter, it was something else entirely. It was a gift, the gift of nothing. And this gift was a vital survival strategy. In a world where every calorie was precious, where exhaustion could lead to a fatal mistake conserving energy, wasn't laziness, it was wisdom. They hadn't just mastered the art of doing nothing. They likely wouldn't have even understood the concept of boredom. The world was too interesting and rest was too important. So what did nothing actually look like? Let's look around the shelter in this quiet hour. Near the fire, an older woman is mending a tear in a child's tunic. Her tool is a marvel of ingenuity, a sharp polished splinter of bone and awl which she uses to punch small holes in the leather. Then, using a needle also carved from bone, she threads a tough stringy piece of dried animal sinew through the holes, pulling the tear shut with tight, even stitches. Her movements are slow, unhurried, rhythmic. This isn't a chore to be rushed through. It is a quiet act of care, of making something last, of preserving the energy that went into creating the garment in the first place. Her posture is relaxed, her mind is calm. A little further away, in a patch of sunlight near the shelter's entrance, two children are playing. They have no plastic toys, no complicated games. They have the snail shells that were collected this morning. They are arranging them into patterns on a flat stone spiral's lined circles. They are not talking much, but they are communicating, negotiating for a particularly nice shell, admiring each other's designs. This is not just play. This is learning. They are learning about patterns, about cooperation, about creating beauty from what the world provides. Their game is quiet, imaginative, and costs them nothing. And what of the knapper, the master artisan? His work for the moment is done. He's now sitting on a ledge at the mouth of the shelter, his legs dangling, doing what looks like absolutely nothing. His gaze is soft, unfocused. He's simply watching the world. He's not looking for anything, not for predators, not for food. He is just observing. He watches the way the wind makes waves in the sea of grass outside. He follows the lazy circling flight of a hawk high in the sky. He notices the subtle shift in the shape of the clouds. His mind is not racing with plans or worries. It is still. He is absorbing his world, letting its rhythms wash over him. It's a state of mindfulness that we now pay to learn in quiet rooms, but for him it was just Tuesday afternoon, Someone else, an older man, is simply asleep. Curled up on a pile of hides in the warmest part of the shelter, he's napping. This isn't the deep, heavy sleep of the night. It is a light, restorative slumber. He is banking his energy, letting his body recover from the morning's chill, preparing for the work of the evening. To his clan, his sleeping form is not a sign of sloth. It's a sign of a body wisely husbanding its resources. This quiet time is the invisible glue that holds their society together. The big events, the hunt, the birth of a child are important, but the real strength of their bond is forged in these quiet hours. It is forged in the shared silence, in the casual act of one person picking a stray piece of grass from another's hair, in the simple comfort of knowing that others are near. This is the constant gentle hum of community, the life that happens between the headlines. This quiet lull is a battery charging the clan for what is to come. Soon, the quality of the light will begin to change. The sun will start its slow downward journey, and its shift from white to gold will be a silent signal to the hunters on the steppe. It will be a call for everyone here to begin the small preparations for dusk, the time of reunion, of sharing, and of storytelling. The day's different threads, the hunter's intense watch, the gatherer's patient search, the napper's focused art, and this gift of quiet rest are all still separate. It is the coming twilight that will begin to weave them all back together when voices finally replace the silence around the ever-burning fire. There comes a point in the day, a moment that no clock can truly capture. It's the moment the sun, after hanging high and white and motionless for hours, finally decides to move. It's a subtle shift, a change in the quality of the light that is felt more than it is seen. The intense bleaching glare of midday softens. The world takes a slow, deep breath. The long fall towards night has begun. It's strange to think about time in this way. Our lives are ruled by the clock. We chop our days into minutes and seconds. We live by deadlines, appointments, schedules. Time for us is a tyrant, a resource we are always running out of. We have alarms to wake us, reminders that beep at us, calendars that tell us where to be. Our time is digital, relentless, and a constant source of stress. These people had none of that. Their clock was the sun. Their calendar was the moon and the seasons. Time was not a line they were racing along, but a great slow circle they were living within. They didn't have a word for 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but they knew deep in their bones the feeling of long shadow time. They didn't have a schedule for the evening, but they could feel the day tilting towards its conclusion. There is a profound peace in that, a kind of freedom we have traded for precision. And now that great clock is beginning to chime for evening, the first change is the colour. The harsh white light of noon begins to warm up, melting into a thick golden honey. This is the golden hour, and it is a kind of alchemy. It transforms the mundane into the magical. The endless sea of dry yellowed grass on the steppe no longer looks drab. It glows, each blade seeming to radiate its own internal light. The river, which was a flat silver mirror at noon, is now a winding ribbon of liquid gold. Back in the shelter, a stray sunbeam finds the sharp edge of the napper's newly made spear point, and the flint flashes like a captured star. The shadows which had huddled short and dark beneath rocks and people at midday are now awakening. They stretch and lengthen, creeping across the ground like long dark fingers. Every rock, every person now has a twin, a dark silent companion that grows longer and longer as the sun sinks lower. The world gains a new dimension, a depth and a drama that was absent in the flat light of noon. For the people of the shelter, this changing light is a silent subconscious call. Those who are napping begin to stir. Those who are playing or mending feel a subtle shift in their mood. A primal ancient instinct begins to surface, the urge to gather, to draw closer to the warmth, to prepare for the coming dark. The fire, which was just a pleasant source of heat during the day, now begins to regain its true importance. It is their own small sun, the one they can control, and its flickering light becomes more vital with every passing moment. Then, as the sun finally kisses the horizon, the real spectacle begins. The sky, which has been a simple pale blue all day, erupts into a silent, impossible symphony of colour. A brilliant burning orange bleeds out from the point of contact, fading upwards into deep rose and soft violet. The clouds are no longer white puffs. They are set ablaze, their undersides glowing with a fiery crimson light. For a few breathtaking moments, the world is painted in colours too vivid to seem real. It's a daily masterpiece, a display of cosmic grandeur that requires nothing but for you to stop and watch. This fading light is a signal to all life. The daybirds sing their last frantic songs before settling into their roosts. The hunters on the steppe feel a new urgency. Their window of opportunity is closing. The shifting light and growing shadows make their task both easier and harder. Soon they must make their move or return with the heavy burden of failure. This light is a call to come home. It is a signal for all the scattered threads of the clan to begin weaving themselves back together. And just as the last sliver of the sun disappears, the world changes again. The fire and passion of the sunset drains away, and the world is submerged in a deep calm and luminous blue. This is the twilight. The blue hour, the magic time. The air grows noticeably colder. The barrier between the seen and the unseen feels thinner. It is in moments like this, in this soft, ethereal light, that one can easily believe in a world filled with spirits where the river has a soul and the stones have memories. This daily death of the sun and the defiant, stubborn life of their small fire is the greatest story they know. It is the fundamental drama of their existence. It is a story they will tell in their myths, and perhaps one day paint onto the dark, secret walls of the earth itself. As the first star pricks a hole in the darkening veil of the sky, the world holds its breath. The day is over. The time of work is done. The time of community of stories and of spirits is about to begin. The world outside the shelter has dissolved into a deep, star-dusted blue. The cold, which was just a crispness in the air during the day, now has teeth. It seeps from the ground and pours down from the sky. But inside, the fire, now built up and blazing, has created a bubble of warmth and orange light. It is an island of life in a sea of darkness, and everyone is waiting, listening. The signal comes not as a shout, but as a sound that doesn't belong to the night. The crunch of feet on the loose scree outside the shelter's entrance. Every head turns. The quiet hum of activity inside ceases. A moment of held breath. Are the footsteps heavy and rhythmic, or are they the light, weary steps of defeated men? Two figures appear in the mouth of the shelter, their forms dark silhouettes against the last of the twilight. They are the hunters. They pause for a moment, letting their eyes adjust to the firelight, and then step inside. They don't say a word. They don't need to. Their story is written on their bodies. In their exhaustion, in the way their shoulders slump with fatigue, but also in the way they walk. There is no dejection in their steps. One of them unceremoniously drops a heavy skin-wrapped bundle onto the ground near the fire. Then the second man does the same. There is no grand announcement, no victory speech. There doesn't need to be. The quiet, heavy thud of the meat hitting the ground says everything. We were successful. We have food. We will all eat tonight. A soft, collective sigh of relief moves through the shelter. The held breath is released. This is their form of communication. It's brutally efficient. We live in a world of endless emails, meetings, and debriefs to convey information. They lived in a world where the most important news was delivered without a single word understood instantly by everyone. The story of the long, patient watch, the silent, coordinated stalk, and the final dangerous moments of the hunt is all there contained in the simple fact of the meat on the ground and the blood drying on the hunter's hands. Now the second act of the evening begins the preparation. This is not a one-person job, it is a communal dance. The knapper who created the spear point now offers a razor-sharp flint flake to the hunters, who begin the work of butchering the reindeer. The movements are skilled and precise, wasting nothing. The older woman who led the gathering expedition directs the children to wash the muddy cattail roots in a hide basin filled with water. Everyone has a role. The air begins to fill with new sounds and smells. The sharp, rhythmic sound of a flint blade slicing through meat. The sizzle and pop as the first fatty pieces are held over the fire to roast on a stick. The rich, almost sweet smell of the cooking meat begins to mix with the earthy aroma of the roots being buried in the hot embers around the edge of the fire to bake. It is the scent of life, of success, of deep, soul-level satisfaction. When the first pieces are cooked, there is no formal serving. The hunters who expended the most energy eat first, tearing at the hot, juicy meat with their hands and teeth. Then pieces are passed around. To the elders, to the children, to everyone. They gather close to the fire, its warmth on their faces, the heat of the food warming them from the inside. And it is here in the simple shared act of eating that voices finally begin to fill the quiet. The talk is not loud or complex. It's a low murmur, the human sound of a hive returning to itself. The hunters between bites might describe the way the wind shifted at the last moment. A gatherer might mention that the berries by the river are almost all gone. The knapper might complain that the good flint is getting harder to find. They are weaving their individual days back together, rebuilding their shared reality stitch by stitch. These small practical observations are how they update their collective knowledge of the world. Each report is a vital piece of data that will inform the next day's decisions. This moment right here is arguably the most important invention in human history. More important than the spear, more important than the wheel. The shared meal around a fire. It is the institution that turns a group of individuals into a community. It is where resources are pooled, where the strong provide for the weak, where information is exchanged, and where the bonds of trust are sealed in the simple, sacred act of breaking bread, or in this case roasted reindeer. But the act of eating is purely physical. The story of the animal itself is something more. They do not believe they have simply conquered a beast. They believe they have received a profound gift from an animal spirit, a spirit they must now honor. This belief will transform the practical conversation of the meal into the more mystical stories yet to come. With their bellies full, a different kind of hunger will emerge, a hunger for meaning, for stories that explain the great mysteries of the stars above and the darkness that surrounds their tiny flickering island of light. The meal is over. The sharp, demanding pangs of hunger have been replaced by a deep, quiet contentment. A comfortable lethargy settles over the group in the firelight. The practical work of the day is truly done. The body is satisfied, and so the mind is now free to wander, to drift into the other great human hunger, the hunger for meaning. As they stare into the fire, the world begins to change. The flames are not just burning wood. They are dancing spirits of heat and light. The shadows they cast are not just an absence of light. They are moving living things. The familiar shelter with its solid rock wall seems to breathe in the flickering gloom. In this state between fullness and sleep, the veil between worlds grows thin. We live in what we call a rational world. We have disenchanted it. We look at a river and see H2O, a hydrological cycle, a force of erosion driven by gravity. We look at a mountain and see tectonic uplift geology, mineral deposits. We look at a tree and see photosynthesis, cellulose, a biological organism competing for resources. Our world is a magnificent, intricate machine. We are brilliant mechanics who have taken it apart, labelled all the pieces and understood how it all works. But in the process, perhaps we've lost the ability to hear it sing. These people lived in a world that was singing all the time. To them, the world wasn't a machine at all. It was a living being. In fact, it was a community of living beings. This is the oldest human spirituality, animism, the belief that everything, and I mean everything, has a spirit. Take the reindeer from tonight's meal. For the hunters, the final moments of the hunt were not a victory of man over beast. It was a negotiation between two intelligent spirits. They believed the reindeer allowed itself to be caught. It offered its body as a gift so that the clan might live. Now in return they owe its spirit a debt of respect. This is why every part of the animal is used. The meat for food, the hide for clothing, the bones for tools, the sinew for thread. To waste any part would be a grave insult to the spirit that gave them this gift. It would be like throwing a present back in the giver's face, and an insulted spirit might not be so generous next year. This belief extends to the inanimate world. The master knapper, when he chose his piece of flint, wasn't just selecting a good quality rock. He was choosing a stone with a cooperative spirit. He believes the stone has a memory of the earth, a will of its own. His job wasn't to force it into a new shape, but to persuade it to have a dialogue with it, to help it release the spear point that was already sleeping inside. Even the wind has a voice. It is not just moving air, it is a messenger. A low, mournful whistle through the rocks might be a warning of a coming storm. A soft, gentle breeze might be a good omen for a hunt. They listen to the wind not like a weather forecast, but like a conversation with a powerful, invisible entity. Their very home, this shelter, is not just a cave. It is a spirit in itself, a great stone mother that holds them in a protective embrace. They do not live in the cave, they are being held by the cave. They show it respect by keeping it clean, by not defiling its walls carelessly. It keeps them safe from the wind and the predators, and in return they offer it the warmth of their fire and the life of their community. An elder, seeing the wide, curious eyes of the children in the firelight, might choose this moment to begin a story. His voice is low and rhythmic, almost a chant. He doesn't tell a story about people. He tells a story about the world. He might tell the story of how bear is their cousin, because a long time ago, a woman married the great bear spirit. That is why they must never hunt a mother bear with her cubs. He might tell the story of how the stars are the campfires of the sky people, their ancestors who are watching over them. These are not just charming fables. They are their science, their history, their moral code, and their law all rolled into one. These stories reinforce the rules of their reality. The world is alive, it is watching, and you must act with respect. Living in this enchanted world means you are never truly alone. Every rock, every tree, every animal is a potential ally, a potential enemy, a relative, a teacher. You are in a constant state of relationship with everything around you, but stories told in words are as fleeting as the breath used to speak them. Sometimes an event is so important, a dream so powerful, or a spirit so great that it must be recorded in a more permanent way. It must be given a body. For that, a different kind of storytelling is required, one that uses pigment and shadow, and takes place in the deepest, most secret parts of their mother, the cave. It is in those silent wombs of the earth that the spirits can be touched, and their stories can be written on the very skin of the world. The stories told around the fire are for everyone. They are the common language, the shared wisdom of the clan. But there are other stories, deeper stories, stories of power, of creation of the spirits themselves. And these stories are not meant for the open air. They belong to the dark, they belong to the earth, and so a journey begins. It is not undertaken lightly. A decision has been made perhaps by a shaman, an artist, a keeper of the old ways. A powerful dream must be honored, or a prayer for a successful hunt must be made tangible, or a young person is ready to be shown the great mysteries. Two people separate from the group. An old man, his face a map of wrinkles, and a young girl, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and reverence. They carry no food, no weapons. Their only tools are for a different kind of hunt. The old man carries a small hollowed-out stone bowl. It is a lamp filled with precious rendered animal fat, a mosswick floating in its center. This small flickering flame is their sun, their moon, their entire universe for the next few hours. The girl carries leather pouches containing powders of red and yellow ochre and another of powdered black charcoal. They walk past the sleeping areas beyond the reach of the firelight. The warmth vanishes, replaced by a sudden, profound cold. The familiar sounds of the camp fade behind them until they're gone, swallowed by a silence so complete it feels like a physical pressure on the eardrums. The only sounds now are the soft slap of their bare feet on the damp stone floor, the sound of their own quiet breathing, and the gentle sputter of the lamp. Their light throws huge dancing shadows that leap and writhe on the walls, making the familiar cave look like a strange new world. They move deeper, following a path that is not marked but is known by heart. The passage narrows, forcing them to turn sideways and squeeze through a tight opening in the rock. It feels like the earth itself is birthing them into a new kind of existence. On the other side, the space opens up again, a vast dark chamber whose ceiling is lost in the gloom above. The sound of dripping water echoes here, creating a ghostly, rhythmic percussion. Drip, drip, drip. The sound of the earth's slow, patient heartbeat. After a long journey into this silent, timeless world, the old man stops. They have arrived. This chamber is special. It is not chosen at random. The rock walls here are smooth, almost like skin, and when the old man hums a low note, the sound doesn't die. It resonates, humming back at him from the darkness as if the cave itself is singing with him. The walls are not empty. In the flickering lamplight, the ghosts of older paintings are visible. A faint red outline of a horse, the shadow of a bison, the faded stencil of a human hand. They are standing in a place where generations of their people have come to tell their most important stories. They are not the first. The old man takes the pouches from the girl. He mixes a pinch of red ochre powder with some saliva in the palm of his hand, creating a thick blood-red paste. He turns to a blank space on the wall, a space he seems to have already chosen. He closes his eyes for a moment, his lips moving silently. He is not just about to draw, he's about to perform a ritual. Then he begins. Using his fingers, he draws a long, bold, curving line. The back of a great bull. His movements are confident, economical. He has painted this animal 1,000 times in his mind. He uses a natural bulge in the rock to form the powerful shoulder and flank of the beast, so it seems to emerge from the stone itself. The flickering light from the lamp below animates the image, making the bull's legs seem to tremble, its muscles tense, as if it is about to charge out of the wall. He's not just painting a picture of a bull, he's calling its spirit into this chamber. He is making it real. The girl watches mesmerized. She is learning, not just how to mix the paint or how to draw the line, but the meaning behind it, the reverence, the power. Why do they do this? Why come to this cold, difficult, dangerous place to paint pictures that few will ever see? We don't know. Perhaps it is hunting magic, a way of capturing the spirit of the animal to ensure a successful hunt in the world above. Perhaps it is a record of a shaman's vision, a dream quest into the spirit world made real. Perhaps this is a classroom where the young are taught the sacred histories of the clan. Or perhaps it's something simpler and yet more profound. It is a way of imposing order on a chaotic world. It's an act of creation in the deep, dark belly of the earth, a powerful charm against the darkness outside. It is an act of faith that the herds will return, a faith that becomes ever more important as the world outside continues its slow, inexorable slide toward the lean, cold months of winter. Finally, the old man takes the girl's hand. He places it flat against the wall next to the great bull. He takes a hollow bone, fills it with the red powder, and blows the pigment over her hand. When she lifts it away, her handprint remains a perfect stencil. It is a signature. It says, "I was here, I saw this, I am a part of this." It is a mark of identity, a gesture that would be understood even by a rare stranger who might one day be brought into this sacred space. This journey into the earth, into the darkness, is a mirror of the final journey every member of the clan will take. And in this sacred, silent place, the barrier between the living and the dead, the real and the spirit, feels very thin indeed. Inside the deep, timeless sanctuary of the painted cave, the world is stable. The spirits of the great animals are fixed on the walls and the silence is eternal. But in the world of light and air, the world of the living, nothing is stable. The great wheel is always turning. And now it has begun to creak towards winter. It doesn't happen all at once. It begins with a single morning that feels different. The hunters step out of the shelter, and the cold in the air has a new kind of edge. It's not the damp, gentle cold of a summer dawn. It is a dry, sharp, crystalline cold that bites at the nose and lungs. The dew that once beaded on the grass is gone, replaced by a delicate white lacework of frost that crunches underfoot. This is the first whisper from the approaching season, a quiet, deadly, serious promise of what is to come. It's funny how disconnected we are from this process. For us, a change in season means packing away the summer clothes, maybe complaining about the heating bill, or enjoying a pumpkin spice-flavoured beverage. We can buy food from the other side of the planet, insulating ourselves completely from the local reality of the land. Our survival is rarely tied to the angle of the sun. For them, the turning of the seasons was the single most important event of the year. It was the world rewriting its contract, and the terms were non-negotiable. They see the signs everywhere because their life depends on being able to read them. The last of the autumn berries have withered on their stems, their sweetness gone. The leaves on the few hardy birch trees in the valley have turned a brilliant, painful yellow, a final defiant blaze of colour before they surrender to the wind. The vibrant green world of summer has faded to a palette of brown, ochre and grey. The animals know it too. The great herds of horse and reindeer have become restless. They gather in larger groups, a sense of urgency rippling through them. Soon they will begin their long journey south, following an invisible map, to grounds where the snow is less deep and food can still be found. The birds that filled the summer sky with song are now gathering in huge chattering flocks, preparing for their own great departure. The world is getting ready to empty itself out. This knowledge sparks a change within the clan. The slow, almost lazy rhythm of late summer is replaced by a quiet, focused urgency. The time for the gift of nothing is over. Every moment of daylight is precious now. The work intensifies. A successful hunt is no longer just a good meal. It is a vital deposit in the bank of winter survival. The meat is eaten, but a significant portion is now preserved. Thin strips are cut and hung on racks near the fire, slowly drying and smoking in the hazy air of the shelter. This smoked meat will be a lifeline in the deep frozen months when the herds are gone and the land is locked in ice. The gathering of fuel becomes a near obsession. Children and elders spend their days combing the valley for every dead branch, every piece of fallen wood. They haul it back to the shelter, adding to a growing stockpile that must last them for months of near-perpetual twilight. The woodpile is their measure of security, a fortress against the coming cold. Work on hides, which was a steady but relaxed task before now becomes frantic. Every available skin is scraped, stretched and softened with animal brains and constant rubbing. The women work their bone needles, mending every tear, reinforcing every seam on their cloaks and tunics. A hole in a winter garment is not an inconvenience. It is an invitation to death. There is no panic in this work. There is no despair. This is the great familiar rhythm of their lives. They have faced this enemy before. They know its habits, its strength. They are not fighting the winter. They are preparing to endure it. They are doing what their ancestors have always done, hunkering down, building up their reserves, and reinforcing their reliance on the one thing that will get them through: each other. The fire becomes the true heart of their entire universe. The circle of community draws tighter around it. They know that to survive the long, dark, hungry night of the winter, they will need more than smoked meat and firewood. They will need shared warmth, shared stories, and a shared stubborn will to see the sun return. This shared urgency makes the appearance of an outsider at this time of year a deeply complex event. When resources are scarce, is a stranger a threat to be driven away, or are they a potential ally, a new mind with new knowledge who could help them survive? The question of who belongs and who does not becomes a matter of life and death. The coming cold is the great filter, a time of hardship that will test the old and the frail. And for those who will not survive to see the spring ensuring their spirit makes a peaceful journey, becomes a sacred pressing duty, a way of keeping the world in balance even as the darkness falls. The world of the clan is a closed circle. It is a world of familiar faces, familiar sounds, and familiar rhythms. The territory is known, every rock and river accounted for. The greatest danger is predictable: the cold, a predator, a failed hunt. But the rarest and perhaps most unsettling danger is the one that is completely unpredictable: the arrival of a new human face. It starts as an anomaly, a detail that is simply wrong. A scout patrolling the edge of the valley in the fading light notices a footprint in the mud by a stream. It is not the print of any animal he knows. And it is not the print of any person in his clan. He knows the shape and stride of every member of his family. This print is different, longer, narrower. He feels a prickle on the back of his neck, the feeling of being watched. The known world has been disturbed. It's almost impossible for us to grasp the magnitude of this event. We live in a world saturated with strangers. We pass thousands of them on a city street, interact with them in shops, and connect with millions of them online. A new person in our life is normal, expected. For this clan, seeing a person they did not grow up with might be an event that happens only once a decade or once in a lifetime. A stranger wasn't a networking opportunity. They were a walking, breathing paradox of being exactly like you, but a complete and total mystery. They were a threat, a resource, a messenger, and a ghost all at once. The scout does not call out. He melts back into the landscape, circling around, using his knowledge of the terrain to get to a higher vantage point, and then he sees him. A lone man standing by the river, looking up at the smoke rising from the clan's shelter. He is tall and lean, his clothing different, made from hides the scout doesn't immediately recognize. He carries a spear, but it is resting point down, a sign that could be interpreted as non-aggression. He makes no move to hide and no move to approach. He is simply waiting, announcing his presence. The scout retreats, his heart pounding a steady, heavy rhythm. He brings the news to the shelter. A hush falls over the group. The quiet contentment of the evening evaporates, replaced by a tense electric alertness. The children are pulled closer. The men pick up their spears. Fear and curiosity wage a silent war in their eyes. A decision is made. 3 of their best hunters, including the uncle from the Long Watch, will go to meet him. The meeting takes place in the open, in the flat land between the river and the shelter, in the last of the blue twilight. There is no cover here, no place for an ambush. The 3 hunters approach, stopping a respectful distance away. They hold their spears loosely but ready. The stranger stands his ground, his face unreadable. For a long moment there is only the sound of the wind. This is a negotiation where a single wrong move, a single misinterpreted gesture could be fatal. The stranger makes the first move. Slowly he reaches into a pouch at his side. The hunters tense their knuckles white on their spear shafts, but he doesn't pull out a weapon. He pulls out a string of seashells, drilled and polished, the kind that come from a great body of salt water that is a lifetime's walk away. He holds them out in his open palm. It is a gift, but it is also a statement: I have travelled far. I have seen things you have not. I have things of value. The uncle, the leader of the small party, steps forward. He looks at the shells, then at the man's face. He gives a short, sharp nod. He accepts the gift. In return, he gestures for one of his companions to come forward, who lays a large, perfect nodule of the valley's best flint on the ground, the same kind the knapper treasures. The transaction is complete. A treaty has been signed in silence. We understand value. We are not savages. We can trade. With a gesture from the uncle, the stranger is invited to follow them. As he steps into the ring of firelight, he is met with the silent, intense scrutiny of 20 pairs of eyes. Every detail is being absorbed: the style of his hair, the cut of his clothes, the scars on his arms, the tools in his belt. He's given a place by the fire a little separate from the family groups. He's offered a piece of the smoked reindeer meat and a baked root. He eats slowly, his eyes darting around, just as wary as they are. This single person, this stranger, is a fragile thread connecting this small isolated clan to the vast unseen tapestry of humanity. He is a living reminder that their own struggles, their own boring days, are being repeated in countless other valleys, by countless other fires. His very presence throws their own identity into sharp relief, reminding them of who they are by showing them what they are not. As the night deepens, the silence might finally be broken not by complex conversation, but by a shared story. Perhaps the stranger will point to the sky and with gestures and a few strange-sounding words tell the story of a constellation, a myth from his own people, and the clan will listen and see that while the names and details are different, the shape of the story, the wonder, the fear, the search for meaning in the dark is comfortingly, astonishingly the same. It is the final proof that they are all, despite their differences, one people sharing one great story under the same canopy of indifferent stars. And so the day ends. It ends as it began with the fire. But it is no longer the lonely, struggling ember of the dawn. It is now a strong, confident heart, a nexus around which the entire clan orbits. The hunters, the gatherers, the knapper, the children, the elders, and now even the stranger, all of them are here, their faces painted in shifting tones of orange and red by the flames. They are sharing stories. Their voices are low, a soft murmur that weaves in and out of the fire's crackle. They are piecing together their world, reaffirming their place in it, and their place with each other. A day in the life is coming to a close. A single, ordinary, boring day, deep in the forgotten past. It's tempting to see this day as a simple, isolated story, a snapshot of a long-lost time. But that would be missing the entire point. Because the truth is, this single day is the most important story of all. This day and the billions of identical days that came before it and after it is the seed from which our entire world has grown. This isn't just a story about them. It's the story of us. You're listening to the story of the beginning of your own mind. Think about it. The unbroken thread. That small precious fire tended so carefully in the morning's cold is the direct ancestor of everything we call power. From that first hopeful flame springs the blacksmith's forge, the steam engine, the nuclear reactor, the tiny spark that ignites the fuel in a rocket, and the quiet, steady hum of the electricity that powers the device you're listening on right now. Every light bulb in the world is just a distant, sophisticated echo of that first campfire. They were the first keepers of the light. The gatherer's quiet path, that slow, meandering walk through the landscape, was not just a search for food, it was the birth of science. Her deep, intimate knowledge of which root healed and which one harmed, which leaf was food, and which was poison, that was the beginning of all botany, all pharmacology, all medicine. Her careful observation was the first scientific method. The sprawling farms that feed our world today began as a simple digging stick in the hands of a woman who knew where to look. The knapper's meditation, his patient, focused transformation of a worthless rock into a thing of beauty and lethal function that is the origin of all technology. In his hands, the human mind first learned to see a potential object inside raw material and to invent a process to bring it forth. The elegant symmetry of his spear point is the ancestor of the pyramids of the Cathedral of the Bridge that spans the river and the silicon chip that holds 1 million microscopic pathways. His focused mind was the first computer. The hunter's long watch, his profound patience and strategic mind was the birth of planning. His ability to read the subtle signs of the landscape, to predict the movement of the herd, to coordinate a complex plan with his companions that is the root of all strategy, all exploration, all science that relies on observation and deduction. The mission to the moon started as a hunt for reindeer, and the stories, The low murmuring voices around the fire telling tales of the spirits of the stars of the great ancestors. That is the beginning of everything we call culture. It is the birth of myth of religion, of philosophy, of lore, of history, and of art. Every book ever written, every song ever sung, every film ever made, every story ever told, including this one, started as a flickering shadow on a cave wall and a voice in the dark. This one single, boring day contained the seed of everything we are. The stubborn resilience, the patient problem-solving, the flash of creative genius, the deep abiding need for community. It is all there. Their blood is our blood. Their long-finished day is the foundation of our own. Their watch is over, but the fire they guarded has been passed down generation to generation, an unbroken thread of light stretching across an ocean of time right into this very moment as you lie here listening. And now it is time to let that thread go. The story is over. The cave is empty now. The fire has long since turned to cold ash. The voices are gone, leaving only the whisper of wind over the bare stone. The people, the stranger, the spirits, they have all retreated back into the deep, quiet earth, back into the past. Their day is done, their struggles are finished, and so are yours. The world of the hunt, of the cold, of the constant gnawing hunger is a distant dream. You can let it fade. The challenges they faced are not your own. The cold that bit at their skin is for you just a story. The darkness that held real predators is for you a safe and welcome friend. You are safe, you are warm, you are comfortable. Your watch is over. You can let the fire go out. Feel the weight of the blanket on your body. It is not a rough animal hide, but a soft, warm comfort. It is your shelter. It is your cave. And you are perfectly safe inside it. Let your muscles release the last of their tension. Feel the heaviness in your arms and legs, a pleasant, warm heaviness pulling you down gently into the mattress. Let it. Your only task now is to rest. Your only job is to breathe, in and out. A slow, easy rhythm. The same rhythm of breathing that settled over that ancient camp as they too fell into sleep. Your heartbeat slow and steady now is the same drum that beat in their chests. You're connected to them in this final, simple act of surrender. Let your mind drift away from the story, away from the images of the steppe and the fire. Let them become soft, blurry, and unimportant. If a thought comes, just notice it, and let it float by like a cloud in that vast prehistoric sky. There is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to solve. All the work is done, all the stories have been told, the fire has faded, the voices are silent, the great slow wheel of the day has come to a stop, and the world is settling into a deep and profound quiet. And you can settle into that quiet with it. Allow your own consciousness, your own small warm fire to dim. Let the embers cool. Let the light fade into a soft, comfortable darkness. You have listened to the story of a long, long day, and now your own day is over. It is time to sleep. Rest now. Rest.